Hey guys, hope you are well. I wanted to give you a rundown today of the East Neighborhood Hollywood Council meeting. Unfortunately, I was not there. This is due to my own fault. I didn't know there was a meeting going on. Hopped on Aja's chat at about 6:30, so by then it was pretty much too late because all the conversation came in early. So if you want on-the-ground coverage, unfortunately that is not me. Take a look at AuditLA, take a look at Solomon, take a look at Confident Chris, take a look at Aja, take a look at Enri. All of these people were actually there to show up. I wasn't. So I do apologize for that, but I wanted to give my rundown because I have some expertise in the city council and as well as dealing with zoning issues. I was on a community zoning board back in New York City, Manhattan, called the Community Board, and it was unpaid. We made a lot of decisions about zoning, similar overlapping issues that are affected by this neighborhood council. I also ran for an unpaid office called State Committee, lost by about 3%, give or take, and I ran for city council. So I know a little bit about these machinations and how some of them work. So I figured I'd kind of add that unique perspective and to add some interesting, unique action items that might be worth following up with. So first, I'll give you a rundown. What happened today? Essentially, they have their monthly meeting. This council has their monthly meeting. And the planters, of course, on L. Ron Hubbard Way, have caused a nuisance within the community. All the protesters were there to advocate to remove that, to obviously put a thorn in Scientology's side, but also make the neighborhood more accessible to the community. It's kind of a 2-for-1 deal. You could advocate against Scientology and also advocate for the access of the community and for the betterment of the community in general. So their whole mission was to try to get something at least perhaps on the agenda for next month, which unfortunately did not happen, to try to get the conversation going. But they did get the conversation going, and the more people show up to these meetings, the council will become associated and reflexively thought of as being reflexively supportive of Scientology themselves. If there are all these people speaking out about how they're hurting the community and empowering this massive cult, then that will be their reflexive association. And they'll be seen, I think quite rightfully so, as a community, as a neighborhood council that is corrupt and that sits within the pockets of Scientology. So creating this awareness and also putting something tangible. There was a real effort to get the planters on the agenda and they were ignored. So now we have something, now we could say that the council has really, the neighborhood council has not listened to the community and has not even put their request on the agenda. Not even to be, you wouldn't even expect a commitment of a vote, but at least a commitment that it will be voted on, that the planters and trying to remove them and bettering the community, at least that will be on the agenda. So there is a democratic right to vote on that specific agenda piece. Of course, that did not happen, but there was a lot of public comment and awareness raised. And everybody did a great job. Solomon was there, Aja was there, Enri was there, AuditLA was there, Confident Chris was there. So a lot of people to lend their voice. Aja was very passionate. And I want to remark Aja because she was really smart in pinpointing one of the neighborhood council members' attitudes. He was very flippant. It was this Jeff Zerman is his name. And he was this dude in a yellow shirt who kept putting his face in his hands, almost sighing on his phone, not listening to Aja as she spoke, and sort of made this deliberate effort to, through his body language, through his actions, to show disrespect for the protesters who are trying to better the community. It's not too surprising if you look at the connections that Jeff Zerman has. He is the president of the Hollywood Sign Trust. That means he gets some income from the signage that is being used. And guess who really likes their signage put upon Hollywood Boulevard and L. Ron Hubbard Way and other locations is Scientology. So if he gets that business from Scientology, guess what? That means Jeff Zerman has profited. And talk about a blatant conflict of interest, because you're supposed to be advocating for the community, not for an organization that gobbles up the community. Zerman has attended various holiday parties hosted by Scientology. And I will quote from the Scientology press release from their website. Jeff Zerman was presented a certificate of appreciation from the church for hosting over 160 events for the community. Now keep in mind, 160 events for the community. Those 160 events specifically sponsored by the church, not just these amazing community events, but all of these community events that Zariman was kind enough to let Scientology host. So that's an important distinction. And in 2021, he also spoke. He got his speaking time. He got his fun in the sun at the Scientology 2021 holiday party. To say that Zariman is a direct ally of Scientology would be the understatement of the year, quite frankly. So Aja was really good in holding him to task. And there have been some comments about Aja saying her language was, not her language, but that her efforts were a little too energetic, a little too much. Guys, that's how you create the awareness. That's how you get people's attention. And once people see videos like this, once people see the live stream, they'll put two and two together. So the passion that Aja presented, I think, will be a catalyst for people to actually research what Jeff was all about. And I think she opens up that Pandora's box where he'll have a lot more enemies because of her passion and sort of singling him out. So I think she did a wonderful job. And guys, there's no such thing as being too passionate in a city council meeting. She wasn't insulting. She didn't call anybody names, nothing. She just presented the fact that she felt like this community was being disempowered by this neighborhood council. Enri, very different approach. He did a great job talking about his career experience as an engineer and remarking that the Hollywood Council, by not taking action, by not even having anything on the agenda, that the Hollywood Council is contributing to the ever-increasing drought in California. He noted that there's been thousands, way over 1,000, thousands of gallons of water wasted for this specific event, for the Church of Scientology and the Big Blue Building. Thousands of dollars in the middle of a drought, and that these sprinklers at the watershed has occurred oftentimes for 21 hours a day. So him using his unique experience in the engineering world and adding his expertise made him, I think, very effective. Confident Chris also did a great job. He remarked that there's been serious selective enforcement. Again, this hammers home the point that the Hollywood Council is going against the public interest because the enforcement was selective. And I connected with Dawn, who's a subscriber of mine, and many protesters. Her daughter separately tried to walk in, and they didn't know there was any association with Scientology, and they wouldn't let her in. So they're so paranoid that even if they don't think there's a direct connection, they aren't letting certain people in. Which, if your event and your permit states that you're open to the public, then you have to be open to the public. And perhaps you could claim that you have an antagonist, a protester who is out with their phone filming everything. But if you have a kid try to enter with a parent who doesn't have any of that, nor is planning on that, well, then guess what? You're committing a blatant illegality and a blatant violation of this permit. So all of this has to be within the public knowledge, and this is why we go to meetings. It's been interesting. There's been a lot of remarks saying, well, what's the point of protesting at the Big Blue Building? Well, you create awareness. What's step 2 of creating awareness? Going to these tangible government meetings and trying to get these things on the agenda and giving the council sort of an opportunity to throw up on himself. Oftentimes there'll be remarks saying, well, just go to your local neighborhood council, go to your local elected official. How come you haven't voiced the concerns? Well, guess what? They just voiced the concerns, and still they do nothing. So lastly, what can we do in the future? Obviously, continue going to meetings. There are these monthly meetings, so I'll certainly be at the next one. I apologize for not showing up at this one. Again, the dog was inside for about 6 hours yesterday when I was out protesting, so it was a little cooler today. He wanted a nice long walk, and then about 6:30 when I was like, oh my god, there's a meeting, it was too late. But I have to be better aware of what meetings are happening. But what is the next thing that you could actually do? It's very, very, very easy to run and win a spot on the Hollywood Neighborhood Council, the East Hollywood Neighborhood Council. Only about, after looking at the vote results, and I was kind of shocked to see this, but only about 50 people vote for each person. And there are certain representative positions that you could get, and there are also 5 at-large council positions you could get. Again, for each of these things, no more than about 50 people will vote. What does that mean? Well, you could be a resident or a business owner or work, and maybe if you're getting support and your financial way of being is protesting, then are you working on L. Ron Hubbard Way? Are you working in East Hollywood? I would argue yes. You could run. for Hollywood Neighborhood Council. Of course, it's a time commitment, but I think it's something that we should all start thinking aloud about. The election would be, I believe, in April of 2025, so the deadline to file, I believe, is November of this year, of 2024. And it's been a thought of mine, quite frankly, as I go around, as I travel, as I try to lend my support in a very small, insignificant way. What could I do to kind of lend my experience and be more than just a busybody, but see if I could be uniquely helpful? And let me know in the comments. It's been a thought to run for Hollywood Neighborhood Council. Again, I ran for a position called State Committee, lost by about 5%. I was on a zoning board. I ran for City Council. So I certainly know the politic-ese and know how to speak it and know the machinations and the granular terms that you would have to know for zoning. And I would also care about other aspects. How often is trash picked up? How long are businesses allowed to remain open? Different stuff. That's kind of the less exciting issues. That stuff kind of has a lot of interest, at least to me. So it's been a thought to kind of camp out, and you have to live in the area, but you could live in the area 1 week before. And is it weird when they vote for a non-local guy? Well, if only 50 people are voting, then guess what? I don't know if I'd be the strongest candidate. Probably Aja would be stronger if she'd be interested. Probably Chris would be stronger if he were interested. Even Kelly. I don't know where they all live. And the other option is to have all of us do it together. There are 5 at-large council seats. Only 50 people vote in these council seats for each person, usually. Usually, these positions are completely uncontested. Is it a radical idea to get 5 of the most committed protesters? I'm not the most committed, but perhaps because I've served on a local governmental body, I might be on that list. But of 5 committed protesters to actually run and campaign. And as we're protesting outside of L. Ron Hubbard Way and making connections with people as we have in the past, part of me thinks, well, why not just have some flyers in hand? And I know how to run campaigns and can help organize that, but why not have some flyers in hand with the election date saying, hey, I'm going to be the advocate against Scientology? It seems like as many of the protesters have discussed Scientology's presence on L. Ron Hubbard Way, it doesn't seem like the community is supportive. So you're out there every day. You're out there for 4 hours a day. Let's say you might hand out 200 flyers a day. Well, if only a small percentage of those, if only 2% of the people you hand out flyers to actually go and vote, well, then congratulations, you win. What does that mean? Well, then you have serious influence, not necessarily control, because that still falls within the jurisdiction of the Los Angeles City Council and more powerful governmental bodies, but they will often take the direct lead from the council and the zoning laws that the community neighborhood council will give them. And they could make direct decisions on smaller issues, like, for example, removing the planners. I believe that's something that the Hollywood Neighborhood Council can directly do. So it's worth doing. And I don't know, man, I will discuss this and I'll bring this up, but I think having a slate, you could think of Mark Bunker out in Clearwater. Unfortunately, he did not win re-election. That was a much bigger election where he was dealing with, I think, 5,000 votes. So that's much less surmountable. But this is an unpaid position. So you need to find somebody with a time commitment and the willingness to do it. Again, I'd certainly be that person, would love to sacrifice that time to be a constant thorn in Scientology's side. And again, just add also a unique perspective to the neighborhood. If I'm less connected to business interests, as so many of these people on the council are, then it's possible that you could be a stronger advocate for residents in the community. Again, whether it be getting social services, whether it be getting the sidewalk cleaned up. A lot of these issues get overly complicated because secretly the members of the council have connections with the guy who buys the signs, for example, has connections with the guy who has an interest in a liquor license, has connections that are corrupt, and they shouldn't be on the council if they have those connections. Of course, if they remain on the council and there's nobody speaking out against them, then they feel there's no harm, no foul, and perhaps that's where we come in. As in terms of next steps, it was good we got things on the agenda. As somebody who has been on a governing board, a zoning type board thing, if you're on the board, your mindset is you want to go home as soon as possible, and you'll try to table everything. And, you know, there's this classic expression in politics: the art of politics is delaying to make a decision until it is no longer relevant to do so. So the people in the council did a very deft job on trying to just, you know, you're allowed to public comment on the next month, but did a very deft job on not giving them any answers, not weighing in whatsoever. And that's the sad part, man. You think if you're an elected official, you'd have the courage, and that would be the whole point, to advocate against this big behemoth who has been hurting the community, whether it be in child labor trafficking or whether it be just in the plants and blocking off their space, whether it be for their dogs or for their kids or whatever it might be. But yeah, man, it's worth doing, and it's worth, but there's nobody there to challenge them. And perhaps that's the next, we need to continue protesting, but perhaps that's the next effort. Get enemies of Scientology into these local governmental positions. And man, who knows, maybe we play a long game. Maybe we see Aja kicking ass and people like that. Remember that the voters have a very different attitude than the boring elected officials. So they might like her passion. They might want to elect her to state assembly, or I might be a good voice in that regard. And who knows? You know, I mean, it's all about playing the long game. The more elected officials you have on your side, the weaker that Scientology gets. So again, the council tried to table everything, not even address them, constantly remind people that they were talking off topic. And it's just a way that they want to make sure that they don't publicly say anything. And for so many of these people, they're so scared, and they don't run for council to advocate for the community, but they run for council to enhance their business. So they're so scared to make any open remark, any supportive remark about much of anything. They are essentially NPCs. They are robots. They are, in this scenario, they are non-human. They don't want to interact. They don't want to say, well, I agree, or I will look into that, or anything. These people are failures of elected officials, all 5 of them. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Sorry I missed it, but again, check out Solomon, Confident Chris, Aja, AuditLA, Kelly as well, who was there, a whole Confident Chris, a whole bevy of people, Enri as well, to check out more in-person meeting. But yeah, just some food for thought, and to kind of put a light bulb in people's heads as to what the next step is. And getting elected to these positions isn't necessarily a difficult next step at all. We gotta wait, but hey, man, the protesters have been out here for about a year now at this point, so I don't see anybody going anywhere, and this might be the next phase. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and hey, next council meeting I will be there. We got some court cases coming up, and I will be there for the streets update in July, and probably see you tomorrow at Big Blue. Au revoir.